Smart Manufacturing Summit here at Hyatt Regency in New Delhi. This is an issue very close to CNBC-TV18's heart as a business channel. Smart manufacturing growing in the future with innovation, inclusivity, and sustainability. And these will be the key themes going forward. How do we manage our energy transition? How do we become a manufacturer for the world? How do we keep our supply chains absolutely agile and resilient? And we've got two brilliant individuals with us this evening, two people who are actually leading this transition in the government and are doing their best to make India a manufacturing powerhouse. I'll explain you in just a bit, but let me introduce both the individuals to you. We've got Secretary, Road Transport and Highways, Mr. Anurag Jain. He has previously been the Secretary of DPIIT and led many consultations with startups and the industry. We've got Secretary, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, Mr. Bhupinder, Bhalla, someone who is responsible for our green hydrogen program, the rooftop solar scheme, which was announced in the budget, and how we're focusing on the energy transition is something that is right up on his table, and he looks at it day in and day out. Without much ado, let me just begin with our guests. Mr. Jain, let me begin by asking you, we've been hearing panelists through this evening, and one point which often comes up is ease of doing business, making logistics cheaper, circularity. Let's begin with logistics. Bringing down the cost of logistics is something that Minister Gadkari, as Road Transport Minister, has been speaking about for the last 10 years. We've achieved a great deal. We have a national logistics policy. What is your personal vision in terms of what you would want to achieve in the next 5 years? 10 years of Make in India, what have we achieved with our logistics policy, with our cost of logistics, and what is our vision?
We had our logistic policy in place, which was launched in 2022, if I recall correctly, 17th September. We have made great strides. Our logistic LPI rank in the world moved from 44th to 38th, and that was very rapid progression upwards. Logistic Performance Index is based on 4 parameters. One of them is the freight cost, other is inventory, third is user and administration charges, and fourth is warehousing. So at that point of time, we used to look at all 4 verticals when I was in industry. But coming to this infrastructure ministry, here freight is one thing we are making a direct impact. For example, if we take Delhi to Mumbai corridor, the kind of roads which we are building, Delhi to Mumbai, earlier a truck would take about 72 hours. Even now it is more or less same, but the project which we have undertaken, Delhi-Mumbai Expressway, 2 major parts have already been open to traffic, and the remaining will be clearing from Delhi to Surat by this March, and by December we should be looking at Delhi to Mumbai. So instead of 72 hours, the travel time will reduce to something like 24, 25 hours. And when I'm comparing apple to apple, because 72 hours also has the rest time of the driver, so take it about 32, 33 hours. So it is less than half. So the rental for the truck goes to less than half. The manpower cost goes down to less than half. And more interestingly, the actual diesel consumption goes down to about 42%, by 42%. How does that happen? When you are actually driving on an access-controlled highway, the times you brake the truck or you accelerate goes down. And that is the actual real energy consumption period. So therefore, the whole cost of freight for transporting certain things will go down to almost about half or 60%. So when we talk about logistic cost of 14%, out of that the transportation cost is about 7%. That itself will go down by about 3 percentage points. Plus a whole lot of things, like if you recall, ULIP had been launched. So that actually improves the administrative charges a lot. With just one app, you are able to connect 34 databases of the country, and you are able to get that data. That will also move things to something like single logistic document exchange systems. So with very smoothly and seamlessly, you will be able to transfer the goods from one place to another. So this is how the whole logistic game is going to change. And as part of the vision, we are going to focus on the access controlled highways. Right now, we have already constructed about 4,000 kilometer of high-speed corridors. Another 6,000 kilometer of high-speed corridor is under construction. And as part of the vision, we'll be looking at something like another 40,000 kilometers. That is the philosophy going forward. And once you have access-controlled high-speed corridors, the logistic of, efficiency will be transformed.
All right. So more access controlled corridors in the country to promote ease of manufacturing. Let me get in Mr. Bhalla at this point. Mr. Bhalla, you've got a tough job at hand. The whole world is looking to India, saying that no decision on climate action can be taken without India's support. There is pressure on us to set very tough carbon reduction targets, have faster transition from fossil fuels as well. But we have to do it at our own pace, a pace which does not harm our industrial and economic growth. Keeping these factors in mind, what is the role that you see for manufacturing? We've got manufacturers from across the spectrum here. The next 10 years, when it comes to our renewable energy transition, what is the opportunity that you see for India Inc.?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me start with that. Yeah, you know, in the entire manufacturing chain in India, we have such a, a lot needs to be done by everyone as far as decarbonization is concerned. We have set a target of, achieving 50% of our electricity from renewable sources by 2030. That's an international commitment we have made. We also set a target for 500 gigawatt of non-fossil electricity capacity. As far as the availability in India is concerned. But this also needs to be used. I mean, in the sense that this is something that we will produce, but somebody has to use it. The discoms have to buy. The manufacturing sector has to purchase, and of course the other sectors of the economy also. So this energy which is now going to be available, we are already at 190 gigawatt or so in non-fossil. We have about 180 gigawatts under implementation. So we have the balance which needs to catch up in the next 7 years or so. The manufacturing industry not only needs to decarbonize in everything that they do, they need to look at what is the electricity that they procure. Can it be greened in whichever way? We already have open access rules where anyone who has consumption of over 100 kilowatts can ask for energy from any source, including green ones, of course. And therefore, the manufacturing industry can look at this option of procuring renewable energy to decarbonize what they are doing. Everything which will be done, electricity is only around 18 to 19% of India's energy basket. The rest of it, there's still many other, energy sources which are tapped in the overall, India's energy basket purchase. It's not only the electricity we have to green, it's also the other sectors. So for example, so manufacturing, the whatever they are buying, whatever they are, the efficiency with which they produce, everything has to be looked at when we are trying to decarbonize each, let's say, a one manufacturing unit. So you look at all the aspects and, in fact, make sure that, and in fact, the people who buy from you are also looking to see whether your product is green enough. Is it greener than yesterday? Is it something, in fact, everybody is now looking at benchmarks of deciding what they should be procuring. So I think every industry will have to look at what their, the industry that they sell to is wanting, their clients, and of course looking at what they can do for the environment as such. So the renewable energy that we are going to produce is something which each manufacturing entity should look at, definitely. And in addition to the renewable energy, what are the other sources that they can use to decarbonize themselves?
Right. Sir, has your ministry been able to do an analysis about the kind of capacity for renewable energy we would need for the next few years? Of course, as you said, the demand has to come from the manufacturing industry. How are we going to drive that demand from the industry? Could it be through reforms? Could it be through possibly some mandates for the industry? What are some of the options on the table?
Actually, we do not have any mandate for the industry as such. For the consumers, the final consumer, the industry is the final consumer. But as far as renewable energy capacity is concerned, in fact, as far as any electricity production is concerned, the procurer is, the intermediate procurer is the DISCOM, the power distribution company. So we focus our energies on whether we can have the DISCOMs purchase more renewable energy rather than having the, forcing it on the final consumer. Because we have left that as a choice as far as the final consumer is concerned. But if you are covered under, if you want to use open access, then you will have to follow, what percentage of green energy you should be buying. Otherwise, the DISCOMs have been mandated through a renewable purchase obligation to source a percentage of what they buy from renewable energy sources. And in fact, that percentage is creeping up. And the reason, the way to use, as I was mentioning, we can produce 500 gigawatts of non-fossil capacity, but somebody should be there to buy. So to make sure that that is also happening, so demand is coming up. The RPO, which is roughly around 27% this year, will be 27% this year, would creep up to about 43%. It's going to rise by about 3% every year by 2030. So in 2030, 43% of what a DISCOM buys, energy what it buys, must come from renewable energy sources rather than the others. So, and in that way, in fact, as far as the manufacturing industry is concerned, so they want, 100, let's say about 500 kilowatt, or let's say 2 megawatt of electricity that they consume. Either they procure it themselves through open access, again some of the mandates apply. Otherwise, they'll tell the DISCOM, we need this 2 megawatts. And the DISCOM, by virtue of procuring 43%, it would automatically, the basket that the industry gets would have a percentage of RE in it. So that's the way of kind of not forcing it on the industry, but it's something which is happening gradually, which is good for
making sure the generators of power, the providers of electricity are moving towards renewable sources,
yes,
and 43% renewable by 2030. Yeah, by 2030. Thank you so much, sir. Those were great points. I'm going to come back to you. I'd like to ask you, Mr. Jain, collaborative effort is something that the Prime Minister has often spoken about. Give us a sense, be it Gati Shakti, be it DPIT, or be it driving a logistics policy or driving logistics through sustainability, how often now do you and Mr. Bhalla or other secretaries in the government interact with each other when it comes to promoting our manufacturing goals? Because bringing a catalyst for deployment of private investment, increasing our manufacturing GDP is a big priority for the government. So how do you coordinate with your colleagues on a daily basis now? Is there more collaboration now than it was earlier?
Definitely, yes. It is whole of government approach in almost anything we do. Say, Mr. Bhalla talked about green hydrogen mission. You also did mention about that. So I think we have had a number of meetings on green hydrogen mission. And there is a steering committee which has been formulated because we have to conduct certain pilots. I mean, he is the mission leader. He is not mission leader, he is joint secretary. He is driving the whole mission. So he is actually interacting with many departments. So one of those departments is my department, which is basically we are doing a pilot. So for that pilot, we have a steering committee. 2 of us are co-chairs. So we keep interacting. So that's not the issue. The key point is with PM Gati Shakti, what has happened, a framework has been created. So whatever project anybody takes, it goes through a network planning group. Basically what PM Gati Shakti did, it brought in 2 things. One was a technological innovation, which allowed this collaborative knowledge. I want to look at the, right now what is the updated data of another department. I can pull it in a layer on which the department is working right now. So I am getting the updated latest information of that particular department. On the other hand, there is an administrative mechanism. Any project of any department which is more than 500 crore rupees has to be routed through the NPG platform. So where all the departments look at the overall benefit to the economy. Suppose I am making a particular project in a particular manner. Somebody would say that if you move it a little this side, say for example, what happened in a railway project? This is an example when, as Secretary Industries, I used to give. One alignment of the railways came. Another person pointed out that underneath you have deposit of rare earth material. So maybe 10 years down the line, you will say shift your railway line. But today itself, you shift and allow that mining to happen 10 years down the line, and you don't have to change your alignment. So similarly, optimization has started happening. The people to whom we have to go for our permissions, they are also sitting there. So we can seamlessly apply. So it's a whole collaborative, basically departmental silos have been broken. So that has added to the efficiency. The results are much better. So what I normally say, that the capex which has increased so much, the efficiency of that expenditure has gone up. So the outcome is actually not only if the capex has gone up, say 3 times in 4 years. So the outcome of that capex is not 3 times. It is more than that 3 times because of the synergies of whole of government approach.
Right. Sir, I'd also like to ask you about the capital allocation for the Road Transport Ministry. It's always been the highest in the budget. And when we get the full budget, again, we will possibly see a high allocation. Now, when it comes to deployment of that capex for infrastructure development in the country, for construction of roads and highways, what is the kind of opportunity that is going to be provided to the industry? How does our industry stand to gain from it? Give us a sense of the vision that you have for road construction, highway construction over the next few years, how to speed it up.
We actually, when I talked about the vision, it was done on a very scientific basis. We started with the PM Gati Shakti layers. So we know what is the supply of roads as of now. What are the roads existing in the country, be it the national highways which we have, or the state highways, or the major district roads, or whoever has, because of the PM Gati Shakti platform, we know which road is where. Then we mapped the e-way bills, the GSTN data, the big data. Then we had our own toll data. So with this, we could actually locate what are the production centers, what are the consumption centers, from where to where the material moves. And then we also went to the economic modeling and the transportation model, where economic modeling was done on each district's growth of GDP, and transportation model to predict how the transportation will move. So we could see which corridors will get congested at what point of time. So every 5 years, how the congestion of these roads would move. That was the sort of visualization we could see on that platform. Thereafter, we started putting supply of roads has to match that. So that was the efficiency parameter. Wherever congestion would happen, we will create some good access controlled highways. So those corridors identified. If you look at the planning, earlier, say from 47 to till about 2000, we were doing the project-based planning. In 2000, around 99, 2000, the first time a corridor-based planning was done, a golden quadrilateral was made. Then we had east, north, south, east, west corridors. But that was the end of the corridor approach. Rest of it is still continued as project-based approach. Then we came in Bharatmala, where we started doing a corridor-based planning. Now we have moved to an integrated multimodal planning, which is going to have much more efficient results. So result of all this vision came out. We also built in the equity part, that wherever you are in the country, within about 100 odd kilometers north, south, or east, west, you should be able to meet a high-speed corridor so that the efficiency of this logistic movement will happen thereafter. And then at the time of planning, you have spurs to the other economic centers like industrial production centers, the tourism centers. So it is that kind of integrated plan which has been created. Now, as and when we have money and we start doing the work, so you select the priority projects on a prioritization framework which builds in efficiency and equity parameters both. And then you start selecting the projects according to that. And then you optimize using the PM Gati Shakti framework once again. So this is something which is going to transform and ensure the best utilization of the funds which are allocated to us. It is optimized thing. You can't have better solutions than this.
Absolutely. Mr. Bhalla, now speaking about some specific themes of the government, let's begin with green hydrogen. An almost 20,000 crore package was announced by the government last year. Give us a sense of the progress of the industry, because different international bodies have said that when it comes to increasing exports from India, which is a priority for the government, green hydrogen is one sector which could significantly boost our exports. Even though the demand from India may take some more time, there is demand globally.
The green hydrogen mission, we started last year. One important, our main target is to have 5 million metric tons per annum worth of production in India. To make it happen, what you also need is electrolyzers to be made in India. And you can, of course, depend only on electrolyzers from abroad, but that was not the, our mission goal. So for setting up the capacities and for electrolyzer manufacturing, we have a site program, which is the incentive program under the mission, which is about 17,500 crore out of 20,000 crore. So that is the extent of support we wanted to get. In that, we came out with schemes. Tranche 1 of our green hydrogen production, the site it was bid out. We've awarded it 410,000 metric ton worth of green hydrogen production capacities have been awarded. In the electrolyzer manufacturing, we're going to have 2 tranches. The first tranche of 1,500 megawatts is totally, awarded. Now we'll come out with the tranche 2 of both electrolyzer manufacturing as well as green hydrogen production. Now, both these tranches, which have been successful, have been very, very, instrumental in having the production capacities come up. The kind of mileage it has given, the leverage it has given to the industry has been phenomenal. When we were setting up the mission, we thought 5 million metric tons is a big number. But if you look at all the projects which have been announced by the industry, of course, after the launch of the mission, by now, we have projects of 7.5 million metric tons of green hydrogen production announced by the industry, with or without government support. They may get government support, they may not get. If they don't, they're not in that. They don't, in the L1 or whoever wants incentive at the least cost, they may not get it also. But 7.5 million metric tons, and this is again the projects which are still, have been announced already. Then you have other projects which are being planned. So this response of industry to the mission has been phenomenal. And the electrolyzer manufacturing, which will start now. In fact, what we also did was to make sure that we also encourage indigenous technology in electrolyzer manufacturing. And we also wanted to, on the green hydrogen production side, we also wanted biomass-based green hydrogen production, which not every country is yet encouraging. So we wanted to have a basket of opportunities available to the industry based on our capabilities and our resources in India. And we have been very happy with the kind of support we've got. And now we'll come out with Trans 2. So that's as far as the production and manufacturing is concerned. But then, as Mr. Jain mentioned, we also have to have decarbonization using hydrogen in some of the hard-to-abate sectors. So transportation is one. Long-haul mobility is something that he's spearheading as far as the pilots is concerned. We also have pilots in other sectors. Steel is a big sector in India. It's is one sector which we thought would start at the end, literally, of all the pilots we thought would be as far as decarbonization is concerned. But steel industry is so happy, and they've already planned how to go ahead and use to decarbonize using green hydrogen. That's something we're working with them. And then, of course, shipping. Again, shipping is such a big sector. There's so many ships in India, not only coastal, but also, within the waters, inland waters also. Again, pilots on how to make it happen. So I think the mission has led to an interest and, movements on the decarbonization efforts that we thought were, we only hoped that it would happen so early, but we're happy that they're already on the ground now.
Right. You gave us something to think about, sir. When you're speaking about pilot projects for hydrogen as a fuel or E80 ethanol, there is a pilot that is being conducted by the Ministry of Road Transport, sir, with certain companies. How have those pilots progressed? And largely, the government's approach has been technology agnostic. You will let the industry, the consumer decide which technology is best, which can be developed at scale. But what has been the government's experience so far with these pilots on hydrogen and E80?
They're progressing well in the sense that, as you would know, that we actually provide the framework. And it's again a hugely collaborative approach that MOPNG is involved, MOPHI is involved, and all of us work as a team. And the manufacturing of the cars, even our auto manufacturers, they are actually pro-green in a big manner. You have hybrids, you have e-vehicles, the hydrogen thing also has started coming in. People have started coming up with hydrogen-based trucks also. So things are moving in the right direction, and the kind of targets we have had for the country, 2030 and 2070 is of course far off, but 2030 we are well on track to meet those targets. So that's happening very well. And it is not that. What I keep saying is that what India has done, India has mainstreamed sustainability in its development approach. What Western countries did, they followed a particular path and then started converting to sustainable things. So their cost of change, etc., was much higher. We are investing a little more to begin with, but we are doing it in a sustainable manner. Say, for example, our vehicle scrapping policy. What is that? What it does, it kills so many birds with one stone. You have the vehicles which are manufactured in, say, about 2012-13. Today's vehicles have 1/15 of pollution. It's 1:15 ratio, BS6 versus BS3. So new vehicles will come, your pollution will go down. Then recycled material will be available at low cost input to the industry. The industry also gets a kick because they get a manufacturing boost by moving those things out. So therefore it's benefit, and if you take the overall social cost benefit of the whole policy, you'll find it's a big win for the country. Even though at some point somebody may appear to be having some cost that my vehicle is getting scrapped. But overall thing. Then you have incentives, therefore you build in the incentives. We are following up with the industry, and I am again thankful to the industry that they are coming, they should be coming out soon. I should not steal their thunder. They would come out with some kind of concessions for a new vehicle against a certificate of deposit, which is for the older vehicle which has been scrapped. So these things are moving in the right direction. We have built sustainability into our road construction program also, where the urban waste is being used, the plastic waste is being used for the bitumen, where the construction demolition waste is being used. So it's recycling and reducing. We are reducing the amount of material which is used by innovative technologies like CTSB. So it is almost in every aspect of what we do, sustainability is getting mainstreamed.
That's good to hear, sir. I'll take final comments from our guests. Mr. Bhalla, if I can ask you about the future focus areas of the government, be it offshore, be it wind, be it solar and hydrogen and other renewable and alternate fuels. Let me speak about the rooftop solar scheme. How do you think this is going to benefit the industry over the next few years? The Prime Minister has spoken about in a big way. Give us the government's thinking and certain priority areas in the renewable sector for the next 5 years.
Of course, if you divide between different RE sources, let me start with solar. In solar, because solar is the mainstay. We started very slow. We were only about 2.5 gigawatts in 2014, and now we are around 75 gigawatts. That's the kind of progress we made in solar. So solar is going to be a mainstay. Out of 500 gigawatts of non-fossil that I talked about, solar will provide about 300. So from 75 also we have to go fourfold to reach 300. So that's the reason that solar is going to be a mainstay. Now to make or to facilitate solar, increase solar in the industry in India, two things are required. One, of course, is a deployment of solar, which will be as part of our bidding that we do. Discoms that I talked about RPOs, and they have to buy. So solar energy would be a big percentage of what is produced. But to produce solar, you also need technology. You need manufacturing in India. We cannot be dependent on a supply chain which are outside India. And we've seen the vagaries, we've seen the way the variation happens. There's a huge variation in prices which is happening. And therefore, to be insulated to insulate our sector, RE sector from costs which are extraneous to us, it's important to have a fully integrated supply chain in India. So manufacturing is a big focus. PLI for high efficiency solar PV modules is going to be the mainstay as far as solar manufacturing is concerned. In wind, onshore wind has been there for last 40 years. We will be wanting, of course, to more than double that by 2030. In there, we already have manufacturing capacity. We have, because the technology is improving, the turbines of higher efficiency are coming in. People are obviously opting for higher efficiency turbines. Now we have a 5.2 megawatt turbine made in India, which is already out there. So we will have turbines of higher efficiency and of technology which India can produce, which will be then deployed across the chain. In addition, we cannot be left behind as far as offshore wind is concerned. So offshore wind is going to be the way forward as far as the wind is concerned. Onshore, what is happening is the best sites have already been taken. So therefore, the wind speed of the remaining sites is a little less than, could be less than what the best sites are. So one is repowering of old sites. That's something that we are doing. Second is, of course, having offshore wind also to be included as part of our energy basket. So there we'll come out with the bids. We already have, you must have seen, for the first time we'll come out with a bid for a non-BGF, for non-BGF route for offshore winds. In addition, we will be coming out with a BGF-based bid also. And we are quite hopeful that within this decade, we will be bidding out more than 30 gigawatt of offshore wind, which is till by 2030. And that's going to be a big number.
Right. Thank you for those targets. Good to hear that. My final question to you, Mr. Jain. When it comes to subsidies and regulations, I know when it comes to electric vehicle subsidies, that's not your department directly. But globally, we're seeing a trend right now, sir. A slowdown in electric vehicles, especially in countries where subsidies are being stopped. A Lamborghini global CEO just told us a few days back that in some countries we're seeing legislation get ahead of technology. How can India avoid that? You can give subsidies, you can give a lot of incentives to the industry, but that cannot be forever. The government cannot be funding manufacturing. Maybe in some strategic sectors like semiconductors, it is needed. But how do we get the balance right in subsidies from the government and in regulation?
It is a very important question. If you look at the whole issue holistically, say for e-vehicle, I for one very strongly believe that you don't need subsidies. You need to have proper communication. Lifetime cycle cost of an electric vehicle is less than a diesel cost. If you go for a bus, cost of a bus, if you buy a new diesel bus and take it on OPEX model, it will give you about 85 rupees to 90 rupees per kilometer. You ask for an electric vehicle, electric bus of the same capacity, it will come to you at 60 to 65 rupees per kilometer without any subsidy. So we have to communicate properly. What happens when you say that, okay, I am going to give subsidy to 5,000 buses? So that restricts the market. We have 18 lakh buses in the country. So, okay, 1.5 lakh buses are there with the state transport units, which need some kind of subsidization because they can't charge the market rate. But rest of the buses, they don't need any subsidy. So you have to design the subsidy programs in a manner that they are targeted. So this time I'm extremely happy the kind of work which has happened. Now Mahua, they are giving the subsidy on OPEX only to the cities or the state, basically they are giving to the cities. On the similar lines, Mohi is coming out with their program where I guess again they'll move to the OPEX model because I'm absolutely clear. So if you say that accepting this particular organization, nobody else is going to get the subsidy, then for rest of the people, the market will get unlocked. That is very important how you design the feature of your subsidy. It has to be focused. For others, now one more thing is the cost of battery. So we have to come out with proper regulation and we need to come out to a level where battery swapping becomes very easy. And I'm extremely happy the Association of Industries of battery manufacturer and the auto manufacturer. They have started talking to each other. And once they come out with proper setting up so that it becomes interoperable, and it's not very difficult. I just need to ensure that if you have a bigger vehicle, it is n number of batteries which I can put, the lowest common denominator. If that becomes the size of the battery, it can actually happen. So if it is done in consultation with the industry, regulation and proper targeting of subsidies can actually unleash the whole energy of the industry.
You're right, sir, and very good to hear your views and that of Mr. Bhalla, giving us a really whole-of-government view on the manufacturing sector and how the government wants to drive it. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much in the audience as well. We request our guests to stay back for a photograph.
Thank you so much, Parikshit, and thank you, gentlemen, for such an insightful session. Well, when we are talking of smart manufacturing, we must follow that up with a session dedicated to the young guns of the industry. And well, in line with the same, our upcoming panel discussion is on the theme of disrupting traditional manufacturing learnings from young leaders. Disruption and innovation are the name of the game, and if India has to grow its full potential, these are the entrepreneurs who will make it happen. To moderate this session, I'd like to invite on stage Ashmit Kumar, Deputy Editor, CNBC-TV18. A huge round of applause for him, please. And his